Thanks for an amazing presentation, and colleagues for being with us and continuing with this. So we're going to open the session now for Q&A. I see a number of questions came up in the chat or in the Q&A tab, but also please feel free to raise your hand and come in live as if you wish to. And with that, as I gave the opportunity to the colleagues to react, we had a similar identical webinar to this earlier today, and some questions came up from the users that since the digital ID is mostly, or wallet is mobile based, and this raises basically accessibility issue, device dependency concerns. What if somebody loses its device, or somebody doesn't have, let's say, a modern smartphone? You gave a very good answer before to this already. Or they have limited storage, or there may be even countries where there may be accessibility issues to download the app. What kind of solutions have you already considered for this, Max, in this journey? Over to you.
A very good number of questions. So let's start from the first one. So we talk about device being only mobile. We chose that for very specific reasons, because we use a lot all the components that are present in the modern smartphone, including camera, fingerprint, and biometric authentication, to make sure that it's actually you accessing the wallet. So we decided consciously not to have a web version of it, in order to make sure that you are actually identifying yourself through the smartphone. Now, the smartphone itself doesn't need to be flagship smartphone. We mentioned before, it doesn't have to be an iPhone 17 Pro. I have two personal smartphones. One is an old iPhone, I believe 8, with a very small screen, and I'm still able to run digital ID on it, albeit it's very, very small, but it's still running perfectly fine. And I also have an Android here, a Pixel phone, which runs digital ID no problem. So we don't have any concerns when it comes to the device age. As long as you're able to run iOS 15 and Android 13 and upwards, you'll be able to use digital ID. The applications, thank you, Vivian, for sharing the link, are available already on the Play Store and on the Apple Store. And you can download it even now. Of course, if your organization is not digital ID ready, you will not have any credentials. But there is a demo mode within the app that you can try right there, and it will give you a flavor of how the app will look like on your phone. And of course, it contains fake data, but at least you get a sense of how credentials will look like and how you can share it within the process. Then we mentioned corporate versus personal devices. We don't have we want to be as inclusive as possible, so we don't have a preference for corporate devices. We actually have a preference for personal devices, because we believe that digital ID is your identity and needs to be with you on your personal device, not on your corporate device. Because especially you might switch at some point in your life, you might switch organizations, but your phone might still be with you moving to another organization. So we believe in using your personal device more than the corporate device. Now, if you lose your device, or your device gets stolen or broken, there's also a backup functionality that we allow through the mobile application. So when you create the wallet the first time, the wallet will ask you to encourage you to take a backup, which is very easy to do. It will show a QR code and 6 words that will then create a passphrase for you. And you are supposed to take a screenshot or save that information safely somewhere else, because that will be the key to the encryption of the wallet that is going to be residing on the UNICC backup store. Now, if you lose access to your QR code and the 6 words, then nobody will ever be able to retrieve your information, which is perfectly good from a privacy perspective, right? Because you are the only custodians of your information. If you lose your access to your wallet, nobody will be able to crack it or hack it and get it back for you. So but then there's also a process for reclaiming your credentials through your employer. So say I lose my phone and I lost all my 6 words and I'm not able to restore my backup, I can always go back to, say, UNICC and ask them to regenerate credentials for me into a new wallet. Of course, the process will be slightly longer, but my data will still be in my wallet after I've recreated a new wallet from scratch. And I think there was another piece of the question.
I believe you covered most of them, but let me come back to you if any. Let's look at the aspect of the paranoia that we always have about the apps following our location, knowing what we're doing, listening to us, this process of building trust, especially around the data privacy, the surveillance concerns, the user control and all. How do you foresee that? How would you build trust with the users that their data is protected and there's basically no concerns around use of this application?
Right. So privacy is very important to us. I mentioned already we do have DevSecOps embedded into the pipeline of the development, which means that we look at security from the very first time that we start developing any lines of code within Digital App, be that the mobile application, be that the wallet, be that the web application itself. But specifically when it comes to privacy, you will find, especially colleagues that are downloading the app right now, that the application requires the less use of permissions in your device at all. So once you start it, you will see that there's no permission asked at all. So there's no permission to track you. There's no GPS tracking. You will only be asked to use the camera once you start scanning a QR code to get your credentials, and you can allow camera usage only at that particular time. There's no microphone use. There's a biometric components which allows you to get access to your device, which means you can secure your wallet with an extra PIN, which can be different from your primary PIN, and then use your fingerprints or your Face ID in your iPhone or Android to get access to the wallet more, in an easier way. But you don't have to rely on that if you don't want to use biometrics. And we take privacy very, very, very seriously, which also goes back to the point of we're not storing any of your data anywhere. Your data is with your employer. So say, for example, WHO has your data. They generate credentials for you. You receive credentials in your wallet. So at that point in time, two parties have access to your data, yourself and WHO, and nobody else can see that data. You get to decide who you share the data with. So if I want to share my medical information from WHO with a third party, I get to choose when and how I do that. And I will also get a confirmation of the data that I'm sharing with them. So fully respecting the privacy of staff. And the last point on privacy, if you enroll in the backup functionality, which is very powerful, that would be the only exception of someone else storing your data in the backup system. But the backup itself will be completely encrypted. And we go back to my point before. So if you lose access to your 6 words passphrase and your QR code, nobody will ever be able to get back your data for you because you are the only custodians of those for full respect of privacy. So there is no loophole. There is no way for us to get back the information. So hope that people will save those information in a safe place. It is a little bit like if you're familiar with blockchain wallets, the same happens with blockchain. If you lose access to your private keys, you lost your Bitcoins, and there's nobody that can do anything for you.
You better save it. Huh? So I can see hand raised by my colleagues, but I can also see some great suggestions on your way already, Max, including design suggestion for the logo. Definitely, it is a UN digital ID, unless the inspiration is to go beyond the UN at some point. Let's give the floor to Ose and then Prudence. I think they have collected some questions from the colleagues.
Thank you so much, Samir. Yes, Max, I know you've touched upon this important topic before, and also you also mentioned something about this now. But can you just take the chance to tell us a little bit more about how secure is the data in the blockchain? And you just give us some extra points about that, please.
So I'm not sure if you want to go back to the slides. I can present it again because there's a slide specifically for data privacy into the blockchain. Let me get to the right slide and share it again. Okay, so the blockchain itself does not store your data. So let's imagine a sharing process, right? A scenario end to end. I have my employment history here on my phone, and it's coming from UNICC. I find a new job working for, I don't know, the pension fund. And so as part of the selection process, they asked me, can you share with us your data? And also, by the way, we're digital ID ready, so you can share it if you have it in your wallet. That'll make our life much easier. So I say, okay, I'll share data with you through my wallet, and you will receive it directly from my wallet. There will be no intermediary. Now, the blockchain will record the fact that I have shared data with the pension fund. So the transaction itself will be recorded, but not the data, which means my personal information will not be on the blockchain. There will be just a record that my wallet information with a particular ID has shared information with the pension fund, but not the data. And why are we saving that information? Because we want to create a immutable, traceable, and auditable records of who is doing what with your data. So if at any point in time in the future, I myself want to get a full records of everybody who's been looking at my data for whatever reason, I can go back to the digital ID program and ask, can you give me a list of all the transactions related to my wallet? And among those, I will see a record of the transaction that I shared data with the pension fund. But again, not the data. So that means that there is no personal identifiable information or PII data stored in the blockchain. And I hope that covers the question.
Yes, it definitely does.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Prudence, you're muted.
Max. Thank you for the presentation. That was really interesting. My question is, you mentioned how it's already, you plan on rolling out with a UN system-wide job application. And then I asked in the chat, and then maybe already replied me, but how would the service be integrated with Inspira? And can you kind of walk us through how that might look like, just like very briefly?
Yep. So thank you for the question. Actually, Inspira is the one team that we are actively collaborating with at this point in time. So the idea will be that, say, sometime in June next year, you'll be able to get to the Inspira webpage, inspira.un.org. You will have the possibility to log in using digital ID instead of username and password or your UN account. So you scan a QR code, boom, you're already into Inspira. You will be searching for jobs. Say you find something that is a good fit for your profile. And so you will be taken to the page where it says apply now. And there will also be another button that says apply with digital ID. Because of course, Inspira will be digital ID ready by that point. And all the wallet information that you have stored in your wallet, you will be able to transfer them immediately and safely to Inspira by scanning another QR code. Now, this will save you a lot of time, especially if you don't have a Inspira profile already. I mean, if you do have one, you can create a new application starting from a previous application. But if you've done that at least once in your life, you know how, I don't want to say painful, long it is to compile the PHP format in the specific format of Inspira. So you have to create all your employment records or your language, and things sometimes change, sometimes they're not exactly the same, so you have to retype your information. And all the stuff you're putting out there, we are basically, as the Inspira team, they are trusting the applicant for that information to be as accurate as possible, right? And then at the end of the Inspira process, when you say submit application, you will also have a page that says, I am certifying that all the information I'm providing is, to the best of my knowledge, as accurate as possible. But humans are humans. Sometimes they try and make things better than they actually are, and they might be lying on the grade, they might be lying on the proficiency of the language. And so that will actually trigger another process, which is the background verification. So you apply to a job, and it takes, for example, I don't know, 2-3 days, because there's also the timeout in Inspira, which is somewhat cutting me off most times. So I compile something and then I find out that I've timed out and I have to restart from scratch. Imagine forgetting all of that. I can apply with digital ID. It'll take me 5 seconds. All my information uploaded, pre-vetted, pre-certified. On the other hand, somebody will receive an application that says applied with digital ID. So they can trust 100% whatever it's in the digital wallet, which means I have a language, a Spanish certificate B level, proved. No need to go and back to check the certificate. French level A, well, that's not very important, but it's still there. Mother tongue English, okay, done. I've done BSAFE training certifications. I've done PMP certifications. All of those records that someone down the line will have to revalidate, they will not have to do that. And imagine then being able to receive a phone call by someone or an email saying, oh, we looked at your application and are you available for an interview next week? So the process will be so much faster because you can skip all of the repetitive tasks that are in the background and everything will be more efficient. Now, of course, things will pick up speed as more and more we use digital ID, but imagine a future where a lot of people are using digital ID, the majority of people are using digital ID, then all of this will be an actual reality. And you will get a call from a job you applied last week for interview next week. Imagine that. That would be fantastic, right?
Thank you.
That would be quite amazing. And also we look forward to see some AI integration there so that we don't have to respond to all the questions that is there for applications. And that can actually automatically pick up some of your past experience, performance appraisals and all, and generate certain codes and references to those answers. Trust me, it is painful at the moment. That's why a lot of people doesn't want to apply to the jobs.
Good feedback, thank you, Zamir. But at least your cover letter, you will have to type it yourself.
Cover letter will do. I mean, one other painful process that we very much look forward to resolve with the digital ID solution is university credentials authentication or validation, which is quite painful from my experience with many staff that have graduated, let's say 30, 40 years ago, and with traditional universities that doesn't necessarily respond to emails or phone calls. And when they move from a job to another job, the other agency will have to, if their requirements have to do a validation of the degree and credentials, and that is a time-consuming process by itself, and hopefully that will be resolved. I'm gonna, just mindful of time, Max, and I know we have like 4 minutes. Just a quick announcement to colleagues that the next 3 webinars I posted in the chat as well are all on digital solutions, the accommodation services by UN Mobility, the digital auction and disposal services by WFP, and also the UN Digital Hub for Treasury Solutions by UNHCR and UNDP. These are somehow all of them came back to back with UN Digital ID, another amazing digital solution, and we look forward to have you all joining those sessions and learn more about those global webinars. And before that, let me go back to Max. And Max, we may have colleagues here from HR departments of different agencies hearing about yet another solution, right? We do have every day a new innovation, and this may mean a lot of work for them. So now they have to integrate all the data of the staff that they have from their ERP systems to UN Digital ID. What kind of solution you have for them? Is there interoperability between UN Digital ID solution and the ERPs of the member agencies?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you, Zamir. So we started the program using open source technology, and we try to embed open source mentality in the whole of the program. So to give you an example, we created the first integration between the workshop program and digital ID using SAP technology. So the ERP system at that time was SAP. And once that was done and dusted, the ERP components, integration components were put together and donated, they were given to UNICEF for further improvement, because UNICEF also is using SAP. Now UNICEF has completed the go live, and they will do the same and put again the source code back into the open source of the 6 organizations, and Umoja, the UN Secretary, will be able to use that piece of code. We've been doing the same also for Workday. We'll be doing the same also for Oracle, and we will try and do the same also for PeopleSoft. So the very first organizations that comes for a new ERP will have to carry the burden of creating the integration pieces, But once you've done it, there is no point in reinventing the wheel. So they will give it back to the community of the 6 or the 7 or whatever organizations they are at that point, and everybody else will be able to use the same source for integration. And our end goal is to have the different vendors, say Workday, SAP, or Oracle, getting our code and making it standard into their solution, so that we will be able at some point in the future to have a standard Workday digital ID connector or a standard SAP digital ID connector that you can pick up from whatever app store, put it into your ERP system, and be done and integrated with digital ID in a matter of weeks instead of months and so on.
Thank you, Max, for an amazing presentation, and also for Vivian for responding most of the questions that came in the chat. Digital ID is an amazing initiative, and it's quite distinctive from all the other webinars or services that we present, and we basically encourage staff to start utilizing the service as a service at the country level, but this is more of a corporate initiative being developed and initiated and launched and getting ready at the corporate level, so that they, on a day-to-day basis, colleagues could benefit from it, be it in the interagency movement, access to premises, or at the end of their service. There were a couple of questions. I know Vivian tried to respond to them in the chat, but some of the colleagues are listening into this conversation, so it would be good to read some and reflect. But in the meantime, we also give the opportunity to colleagues to raise their hand, and if they have any live question to come in. Let me start with the fact that we normally talk about personnel, and when you say personnel, that means that UN Digital ID will be accessible to all form of personnel, including the consultants, interns, and other type of team members as well.
Yes, that's correct. We really want to make it as inclusive as possible. We don't care about contract types. We want to have everybody using digital ID to make it as useful as possible. And that's why, for example, the mandatory training certification applies to, I believe, all contract types. And that's why we put forward that use case as one of the first to go forward, so that we can include the largest set of population possible.
And that's amazing, and because that was another question, that there's a lot of mandatory courses amongst the UN agencies that are complementary to each other with slight differences. So hopefully in the future, UN Digital ID will be a platform where you can save and basically transfer and share all of your mandatory trainings. Okay, so let's go to the floor, Max, and I see that Gulnar has her hand raised. Gulnar is from UNICEF, and let me, Gulnar, activate your microphone. Oh, it was already activated. Okay, please come in, Gulnar.
Thank you, Zamir, Marele, and Vivian. I'm happy that UNICEF also joined UN Digital ID, which marks a significant milestone in our journey towards innovative digital-first solution that modernize the way we work. And my question is, could digital ID ever enable automatic recognition of prior UN experiences or skills, like creating kind of skills passport that follows staff across agencies?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Gulnar. So we're talking about skills as in, I don't know, I have a certification as a project manager. I have an agile type of certifications, these kind of things, right? I believe so. I mean, credentials, the form that we store information in digital ID is called verifiable credentials, and they are not bound by any particular format. So if you have an LMS system, a learning management system that's producing records for you that are not within the mandatory training, but outside of the mandatory training, we can definitely store credentials, verifiable credentials about other training courses that we've done. And potentially we can open up, if there could be a potential in the future where we can allow, for example, universities or other trusted authority entities to write information about you directly, which means that if you don't have to go back to your previous university where you've done your master's degree, they will be able to write directly information into the blockchain on your behalf, or you can accept that information into your wallet and then share it with anybody else. And if we just talk about skills, there need to be a way for the UN to recognize the same level of skills between different organizations, but I don't see that as a problem. I mean, the technology will be allowing that. It's just a matter of making sure that we're all talking about the same level of skills. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Marele. Everything is clear. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Gulnar. And we have the next hand raised from Joel from WFP. Please come in, Joel. I think your mic is activated now.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Marele, for the wonderful presentation. I wanted to seek clarification on in terms of guidance in future around the governance if we are moving forward to integrate additional use cases in terms of prioritization. Because I'm looking at that we're handling more personal data, but we have another segment of handling what we share commonly across the UN, which includes beneficiary data. We have LTS, which we normally share across. And then we have the beneficiary data also, which is coming in as one of the things which we are looking at in WFP to see how that can be handled also through this secure channel platform. So I don't know, in terms of governance framework in place, how in the UN this can be approached so that we all know the priorities and how things can be handled firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. It's an excellent point. So just to give you background, the governance of the program itself is basically we have a joint working group which is made up of the business owner board, which comes from the directors of HR, admin, security, IT of the different organizations participating, and the technical advisory committee, which looks at the technology components. Together, they form the joint working group, and the joint working group is the one that is putting forward changes and new features and enhancements to the program itself. And in this case, it will be the prioritization of the use cases, for example. And once that's been done, it is put forward to the executives SteerCo, the steering committee, which is made up of the executives of the 6 organizations. And they have the mandate to decide on the prioritization of the use cases. So far, everybody in the program has been looking at staff primarily. So you mentioned beneficiaries as outside of staff, right? So the clear focus of Digital ID for now is UN. That's why it's called UN Digital ID. We want to make sure that we have a working solution, a solid foundation for everybody in the UN. But that doesn't preclude the future where we say that once we have a working solution for all of UN staff, we can expand the use of Digital ID beyond staff. Of course, that's beyond our current mandate, but that doesn't preclude the fact that maybe the board in the future will decide this is a good enough solution that we can use for our beneficiaries, for our refugees, and everybody, all the displaced populations across the globe. If it makes sense, we will be very happy and actually proud to have our solution used also for something else and for doing a lot of good in the world. But that's I think for the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very clearly answered. Yep.
Thank you. Max, I think we can move to some of the common day-to-day questions that comes into our mind about, okay, so I have digital ID now, it's in my phone, and it's also stored with different agencies. So there's always this aspect of data privacy, but at the same time, the issue about practical scenarios when we, let's say, lose our device. If a staff member loses their device, the phone or let's say iPad, where they have their digital wallet, how does the recovery work and how quickly can they access it? And in terms of data privacy, how much control do staff have over their personal information shared through the digital ID with different UN agencies?
Perfect. So first part of the question, what happens if I lose my device or if my device gets stolen, or for example, I crack the phone, the screen phone, it doesn't work anymore. We strongly encourage people when they start using digital ID to make a so-called backup, which enables the wallet to be backed up in the UNICC servers, completely encrypted. So by enabling the backup, you receive a QR code on your screen that you are supposed to save in a store in a safe location. And together with the QR code, you also receive 6 words that will make up your passphrase, which you will then be using together with the QR code to prove that it's actually you trying to restore your backup. So say I lose my phone, I get a new phone, I download digital ID again, I have the option to restore from a backup. At that point, I'll be able to scan the QR code that I saved, hopefully you saved it, and type the 6 words that you hopefully also saved. And with that, you'll also be using the camera of your phone to make sure it's still you. So when you set up the backup, a biometric model will be created of your face and will be stored encrypted as well together with the wallet. And once you're claiming to be that person restoring the wallet, the same information model will be checked against the model for similarities. That's why we're using machine learning. And we're using a one-to-one comparison. So we're not using a one-to-many or many-to-many comparison, also to respect data privacy. So if you're claiming to be Max Morelli, my profile that's stored in ICC will be checked against my profile that's coming from my new phone. If they match, I will get access to my wallet. If they don't match, it means that it's not me. Or maybe I forgot everything. I forgot my 6 words and I forgot my QR code. In that case, unfortunately, you lost access to your wallet, just like it happens in the real blockchain world. If you lose access to your private keys, you will not be able to get it back, which means you will still be able to get a new wallet and get your employer to create new credentials for you. So that's always an option. Say that I had all my personal and my mandatory training certificates in my wallet. I can request, for example, UNICC to recreate the credentials for me in a new wallet. So there's always options to get back your information. Of course, if you had information coming from previous employers, then that will be a bit of an issue. And when it comes to data privacy, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that our systems, they do not store any data unless you're creating a backup. So the privacy of your data stay with your wallet. Your organization, say for me, UNICC, is hosting my information, my personal records. I can get it into my wallet if I want to. And then I get to choose who I share that information with. Nobody else sees my information. It's completely, fully locked to my wallet. The only divergence from this scenario is the backup. So if I choose to do a backup, my data will be stored encrypted into the ICC servers as well for future restore. But if I lose access to my 6 words, the QR code, or how I look like, nobody, not even ICC, will be able to restore it back for you. So that's complete privacy right from the start.
That's amazing. It looks very, indeed, and it looks very integrated and secure. It's just that some people like me will definitely forget those numbers. So
I am with you on this one.
Yes, yes. So hopefully there would be like solutions that that could be more advanced, that could help staff in future. I have another hand raised by Shafaqat. Is it Shafaqat Munir? Please come in, Shafaqat.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Zamir. Nice to see you in gray hairs now. So, which proves that yes, you will also, one of us will forget the passwords and keywords. So you're not alone. Thank you very much. It's an excellent system as I can see it. I've just downloaded it, though I don't see anything yet on my UNICEF account. Sorry, at this stage, maybe it will come in near future. But my quick question on the operationalizing these kind of services to our staff member, as you know that most of the UN agencies, the mobile phone, which normally I hope that it is compatible with all this, otherwise organizations or staff members start requesting the organization to provide them a certain phone, iPhone 17 or whatever you call it, so that it is compatible with the with the digital movement we are doing in the organization. So I hope this thing will work with any minimum or maximum resolution of the mobile phones which are offering, or should we have to have a standardized standard of phones to all staff members? In that case, there will be a demand coming up from the staff to provide organization provide those equipments to them. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shafkat. That's an excellent point. No, we definitely don't need a high-end phone, so forget about iPhone 17 Pro or whatever. Actually, my digital ID right now is running on my, I think it's almost 10 years old, iPhone 8, the one with the small screen, if you remember, the home button. Works perfectly well on that. The screen is a bit small, I have to say, but still it's fully working on that. I also have an Android device here with me. It's still my personal phone. It's an old Pixel phone and still working fine on that as well. So we really make sure that everybody can use it regardless of whatever solution they have. Of course, this is available only as a mobile application in mobile smartphones. We don't have a version that runs on a web, for example, but that's because we want to make sure that we have the highest level of security and the highest integration with the camera and the fingerprints and all those features that might be missing on a laptop. But definitely we want to be as inclusive as possible. So the lowest end phone, as long as you're running, say, Android, I think 13, and iOS, I think 15, you should be able to run everything on your phone.
Thank you, Shafkat, and thanks, Max. I think related to this is another question that our colleague Janet asked in the chat, is that does the digital ID require consistent or constant internet access, or its downloadable copy can be stored in the phone? I think you partly, I think, respond to this, but giving you an opportunity here.
Thank you. So the minute you want to receive credentials, you need to establish a connection with the network. So the blockchain itself, you will need to talk to the blockchain. But once you've received credentials in your wallet, you can continue looking at credentials, verifying your credentials, and basically the wallet can work as an offline solution. If you want to share information, then you will need, again, another network connection. But the app itself doesn't share that much information. So from bandwidth consumption, you can work on a 3G, 4G connection, no problem. Even if it's a very low bandwidth, you will still be able to run everything. Of course, you need to have connection if you want to share. So the minute you want to share information with someone else, you will need to have a connection.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Max. Moving to the aspect of, let's say, the service recipients at the organizational level, we know in the UN system, despite having similar policies and procedures, we are using various ERP systems at the moment. There is an effort into consolidation of the ERPs as well. We're not there yet. So one key question is, how will the UN Digital ID integrate with all these ERP systems? So Moja, Atlas, Workday, and all. From the perspective of the organizations that are utilizing the service, how would their data be transferred, or how easy would it be for them to start transferring the staff data into the digital ID for interagency movements and so on? Over to you.
That's a fantastic question. Thank you. So we have we try to use the open source mentality in our program since the very inception of the program. And for this reason, whenever a new organizations come that doesn't have an equivalent ERP system already used by someone else, they will be the one providing the integration code with digital ID. So say, for example, Wolffield program comes, actually Wolffield program was the very first one to go live with digital ID. They provided the code with their ERP systems, SAP based, and they developed it themselves. Once that was completed, they took the code and they gave it to UNICEF for further improvement in an open source kind of mentality. So everybody else using SAP from this point onwards will benefit from the work that was already done by Wolffield program, UNICEF, and now by Umoja. Same goes for Workday, for example. We have organizations that are using Workday, like UNHCR, So they will be giving the code of integrating with Workday to whoever has a very similar system, so they can get a head start from the beginning and don't have to recreate the integration from scratch. And the idea will be that at some point in the future, we'll have a sort of repository where new organizations will come and look at whatever is available from an integration perspective. So for now, we have covered SAP, Oracle, Workday, and I think we're looking at PeopleSoft as well. But the idea will also be to have conversation with Workday directly or with SAP directly, where they will come and pick up the code that we developed internally in the UN and make it official Workday code, Workday supported code, or SAP standard code. So that in the future, we will have a standard connector that anybody can be getting from, say, the Play Store or whatever equivalent is with the ERP systems, plug it into their ERP and connect with Digital ID in a matter of, I would say, weeks.
Thank you, Max. That's really reassuring. Just wanted to remind colleagues that as part of this series of informational webinar on global shared services that the UNSDG Business Innovation Group has launched back in September, the next 2 days and the next 3 service solutions or initiatives that we have webinar on is all digital. So we had UN Digital ID today. Next week, we have UN Accommodation Services, which is part of the UN Booking Hub, another digital system. Digital disposal and auction services is coming up afterward. And then we're concluding these sessions with UN Digital Hub for Treasury Solutions, which is another amazing initiative that UNHCR, UNDP launched, and IOM is now on board with some other agencies. And I believe UNICC is supporting that as well, Max, if I'm not mistaken. So quick reminder for colleagues to join us in the coming webinars as well. And as we getting closer to the end of this session, Max, maybe I can go back to you for any closing remarks. And I also saw that we are having the phases coming up and some hopefully timelines associated with it. How soon can we see UN Digital ID as one of the one and only solutions we need to have in our phone to have access to all we need, including payment transfers?
That's a very good question again. Thank you, Zamir. My hope is that, so the 6 organizations are going live with the full population between now and June. And by the same timeline, we will potentially see the adoption of Digital ID by as many as 15 organizations, which brings us to the point where maybe in Q3 of next year, this will be so widespread that it will become the all-in-one solution for everybody. We hope that fall of next year, so say in a year time, if we have a similar webinar, we can say we are live with 15 organizations. Say we have 150,000 people using Digital ID on a daily basis, and from, I don't know, November of next year, we'll be able to use it as a digital badge to get into your premises. That's my dream. But it's really coming fast. So we see a lot of interest. We see a lot of people getting together and agreeing on so many things, which is fantastic from our perspective.
And if
That's
I can
amazing,
add
Max.
as well,
Please.
Zamir and Max, to refer to a point that Prudence had pointed out, because what is slowing things down, if that's the word to use, is not the technology, it's the change management and ensuring proper rollout, adoption, and that all users feel comfortable using something new as well, which takes time, especially in the UN, and there's so many different types of users. So that is really where our work will be focused on next year as well. So thanks.
Amazing, and thank you, Vivian, for covering this part as well, and for your usual support, continued support, and so is Max's. Max, we will at least help you basically achieving your dream. Just downloaded the digital app myself, and it looks great. And we already commit for another webinar like this so that we can share more achievements about the UN Digital ID with the UN system and all the audience that we have. And with that, I thank you, Max, Vivian, and thanks colleagues for joining us for this informational webinar. We'll be sharing with you all the recordings, and there will be a consolidated Q&A of this webinar and the identical one that we have in the next couple of hours on the subject. and see you for the next week.